Good evening, my friends, and thanks for stopping by the channel. I am Chad Neighbors, the Chad Neighbors, and today I'm talking about infusing your models with character through modification, kit bashing, and painting. Today's subject, a demilitarized war mech turned logging machine. Battlefield to backwoods, eh? I'll tell you all about the build and paint choices, but first, the premise. Why take a war machine away from the war in the first place? In game terms, I simply wanted an industrial mech for Battletech, and also a unique freelancer for Steel Rift. Lately, I've been infatuated with the idea of mech technicals, and for those not familiar with the term technical in this context, it refers to an ad hoc fighting vehicle made from civilian cars, trucks, or heavy equipment. So, like the legendary and infamous Toyota Hilux, but a mech. Battletech fans are likely already thinking of the Dark Age, and let me tell you, I'm 100% here for that vibe. I love the lore for that era, and don't at me. More philosophically, I wanted to explore different themes with this mini while at the hobby bench, and while sticking with a sci-fi setting. It doesn't have to be all war all the time, right? And besides, I had a hankering for a mech with a giant chainsaw, and that naturally suggested to me forestry work, a LoggerMech, if you will. So that's it for the premise. Now to work, because we've got logging to do. For the base model, I chose Death Ray Designs Corso, one of their awesome Steel Rift minis that really caught my eye. It's an authority medium with a shape that is overtly military, but also plainly utilitarian, the perfect starting point. But every custom design needs a name, and I named this one the Longhorn, something rough and rustic, suitable for heavy equipment. The demilitarization angle I mentioned was inspired by real-life post-World War II tank conversions, where companies large and small turned surplus tanks into tractors, dozers, and other equipment. Every now and then, you'll still find these old tank chassis mods sitting near quarries or left to rust away by farmland. Pretty neat, right? I figured the same thing would happen to the bipedal machines of the far future. The guns and advanced systems would be stripped out, leaving versatile, heavy lifters that could be sold on the civilian market. So now, let's talk about those build and paint choices that tell the Longhorn's story. First, the repurposing of its shapes. The design of the model, as intended, has a thin sensor slit up front. You can see on the pic on DRD's website here. But I decided to paint that instead as a wraparound windshield. A logging machine operator needs good visibility with his eyeballs, not sophisticated sensors. And to protect the windshield from falling branches, trunks, and other accidents, I bent some thin paper clips into crash bars and glued those into holes drilled above and below the now windshield frame. I kitbashed the chainsaw arm using bits from an IWM Nightstar leg and an old Blood Bowl Goblin chainsaw. And let me tell you, based on comments I got elsewhere on social media, that chainsaw is apparently a highly recognizable bit. I think that's fun. Modelers and wargamers are nothing if not passionate. The left arm claw, used for hoisting tree trunks, is a stock piece of this kit and perfect just the way it is. Now, when kitbashing, using parts from different models spread across different decades, you might rightly think the visual language of the model would end up pretty muddled. Yes, that's correct. But with the Longhorn, this visual mismatch between parts, the styling, was an opportunity for more lore. Real-world pieces of heavy equipment often get Frankenstein together over decades, kept running with baling wire and prayer. Visit my corner of Greater Appalachia and you'll find tractors and dozers and skid steers with all kinds of mismatched components and attachments. So the mech's saw assembly being salvaged from another machine entirely helps to relay that part of the story. The last mod I made to the Corso was to add exhaust stacks on the back, suggesting replacement of any fancy fusion power plant or molten sodium battery with a good old-fashioned dyno burner engine. And that's it for the mods. Before we move on to the paint job, though, do me a big favor if you're enjoying the video. Hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell. It really helps the channel grow and reach more hobby heroes like you. So, on to the paint. Beaten and rusty was the only way this big rig was going to go. I started with a burnt umber undercoat for the rust layer and then prepped a high visibility yellow mixture made from Vallejo model color lemon yellow, flat yellow, and a little bit of ochre brown. The Saw Arms orange mix was Vallejo's clear orange with more of that same ochre brown. Note that the addition of ochre brown in these mixtures sort of desaturates the colors and makes them look suitably shabby from the get-go. That contributes to the finished look. But to achieve that blistered, scraped, worn finish, I thinned both of those colors I mixed up with Vallejo's glaze medium, about 65 to 35 paint to medium. And then I stippled it on randomly all over with a stiff eyeliner brush. This created an authentic scuffed effect with rust still showing through, and it did it all for very minimal effort. And it's all scale correct. I finished up the rust pass with Vallejo's Mecha rust washes and textures, dabbing that on here and there randomly with different worn out brushes and some shredded pluck foam that gave it additional randomness and depth. A few more details like a scratchy cobwebby canopy to simulate impacts and some fresh scrapes here and there in dark gray completed the weathering. Now, sawing trees all day long makes loads of sawdust, so I packed my homemade pigment powder into nooks across the model and all across the base, spreading it liberally on the ladder and being careful to work it thoroughly into the Longhorn's feet. That powder was made from mortared artist pastel sticks, something I might talk about in a future short video. Leave a comment if that or other hobby how-tos are something you'd like to see. The tree trunks on the base here are just distressed bamboo skewers scoured with a wire brush prior to painting. The stump behind the rig is a dowel rod piece given the same treatment. Two more key details I want to point out on either side of the operator's cab. The work light, a jeweled sensor dome piece that came with the model kit, and the machine gun. And as for the machine gun, well, I know I said the machine was demilitarized, and it is, but you and I know how fanatical some of those Birkenstock-wearing, granola-eating earth children types can be. I just can't have them trespassing on the job site, chaining themselves to equipment or trees, and generally looking for trouble. The bottom line must be defended, and with lethal force, if needed. Besides, getting after hippies with the chainsaw would be unsafe. You think OSHA is bad now? Just wait till you see how they are in the 3100s. Anyway, moving swiftly on, last but not least, something eagle-eyed viewers will have already noticed. The smiley face antenna ball. The hours and pay might suck, but piloting a giant robot logger probably isn't the worst job in the world, and I'm willing to bet the operator agrees. So there you have it, the Longhorn, the story of a future war machine demilitarized for civilian use on the job site. A story told readily enough through modifications, paintwork, and details. I like to think that just maybe it could have one last dance in yet another war. It won't be state-of-the-art any longer, not by a country mile. But with enough moxie, maybe its pilot can buy some time for his friends. Gentlemen, that will do it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Each and every one of you make this enterprise worth doing. Before you go, drop a comment with your thoughts on the Longhorn and if it's inspired you to do something similar or totally different. If you've enjoyed this video or any of my other videos, do me a great honor by clicking like and subscribe and consider sharing this video with your hobby wingmen. Until next time, remember, have character, don't be a character, and good night.